Here I am, laying out for a three-legged stool. I started out with knowing where the dead center of the circle is, and I reduced the radius of my dividers by 1 inch, as that's where I want to move in the legs from the outside edge. I then draw a straight line through the middle of the circle. I chose to go with following the grain, and then leaving the dividers at the exact same calibration from that line at the bottom. I'm able to do 2 dashes, and then at the top where the line went through, plan to put my third leg there. In the drill press, I put my 1/2 inch brad point drill bit, and then I test with a scrap piece to make sure that I put a stop on my drill press so that the bit can go through the seat plank, but then not go into my jig, but it can go into my sacrificial piece of wood. A second ago, I pointed out that my jig has a hinge on the front side that's closest to my body and is angled at 5 degrees at the back. I can always change that angled block in the back if I wanted to drill my holes at a different angle. I'm now lining up the point of the brad point bit to drill my first hole. When I turned the drill press on, I felt like the drill bit wasn't centered in the chuck well enough. So I stopped the drill and rechuck it. With the drill on and the brad point touching my seat plank, I do a double check to make sure that my seat plank is in alignment with the drill bit and the post so that that 5-degree angle is in line with the way that I separated the seat plank into 3 equal sections. Start out drilling very lightly so that the brad point bit can cut across those fibers that are sitting at an angle, and so that I get as little tear out as possible. I go at a nice, slow, steady pace until I make contact with my stop block that I set on my drill press. As you can see, I still have a few fuzzies on the top and bottom, even though I started the bit out nice and slow and had a sacrificial piece of wood to drill into. I'm now lining up for my second hole, making sure that the center of the circle, the point that I'm going to drill in, and the drill bit and pillar are all in a same line so that I'm getting my angle in the angle where I want the stool to be at, in the right place. And you can see that I went to go grab a ruler to help me see this line more clearly. Once I have everything lined up, I go ahead and drill my second hole. I then cleaned my work surface and lined up for my third hole. Start working with the taper reamer. So I've got some pilot holes drilled here, so they are actually 1/2 inch that I did on an angled jig on my drill press, and so they are all just putting in 5 degrees. And then I also have a practice piece, so this was done on my first stool, but because I have the same stock, I just got familiar with using the taper reamer. I always encourage using a practice piece to get familiar with it. So I intentionally drilled a bunch of holes just so I could practice reaming and getting familiar with what it would feel like. And then this is a black line that was from my previous time. And you can see that it came off on the other side, and that's because part of this is always going to be hitting while the other side is going to be up in the air. So it's a benchmark. It's not a precise thing. That's why I have my legs sitting right here. So I'm going to do a lot of fitting as I go. And yeah, we're just going to kind of jump into this. If I have anything, I'll just speak up, but otherwise I'll probably do the first one in just regular speed, or the first few minutes, and then I'll just put this on a time lapse and then just pause it if I have anything to say, or take it off time lapse if I have anything important to say. But the main reason I like the long one is that it just gives me a ton of material here to get familiar with in the hole while I'm trying to hold on to that angle. It would be smart if you needed a little bit more of a guide. You could of course have your bevel sitting here to kind of help your eye be trained. I'm not worried about being that precise. I'm just going to follow the hole, and if I change the angle a little bit, great. These aren't supposed to be mirror images. I'm not trying to make a stool look exactly like this one, or, you know, if I was making a second one, so they each get to be their own piece. Here we go, though. So yeah, I can feel myself for sure changing the angle a little bit. So of course this is 5/8, so I haven't done enough of the taper to go through. I find if I can steady this against my body, let's see if that's in view. Not quite, so we'll change that. All right. So now, as I was saying, I find it useful to steady this a little bit against my body. I don't have exact recommendations on how fast or slow you should be going. I find a little bit of speed helps me not bounce around or get, thrown off every time the blade hits the wood. But I like starting out slow and just getting familiar with the taper and holding the angle, and then just picking it up. So I'm starting to see that I'm getting close to my line. We'll get to see what that looks like on the other side. So it's just definitely a snug fit. Very tight on the top. I can see that it's a little loose up here, and that's probably just because I've wandered a little bit. Again, I'm not bothered by that at all, but just giving you a heads up about what I'm seeing in my own work. I like it. So now I'll get these 3 in and take a look at what they look like. This footage obviously was taken a little bit later because I have the slits for the wedges, but you can get a general sense on how clean all of those angled holes came out.